Hello, and welcome to Totally Schway, a podcast about the DCAU and whatever the hell else I want it to be about. My name is Mary,
And my name is Luke.
and today I have a question for you.
Fire away.
How are you? I'm just kidding, I don't want to know.
No one wants to hear how I am.
It's a typical English answer. All right.
No, I wasn't going to say that.
Oh.
My back just started hurting.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh my God, ow, what's happening?
I literally, that's one of the reasons I was like, no, I don't want to know.
Yeah, I brought it up anyway. Oh well.
It's fine. Luke has occasionally has these back issues, and I know what happens. It's like as soon as it starts, it's gonna be like a week of hell.
No.
Not for me at all, but for him, it's gonna be like not nice.
Well, I discovered it's tied to my neck because I have a lot of tension in my neck and shoulders.
When you started working from home and you got a lift for your, what is that called?
For the monitor.
For the monitor.
Yeah.
I know what the monitor is called. I don't know what the thing is called. Apparently that helped a lot.
It did.
How about this?
Okay.
Do you have any news for me today?
So there's one little bit of DCAU adjacent piece of news that I would like to share. And that is the news that Todd McFarlane has not had his license for DC action figures renewed. It's gone back to Mattel. So, as of the middle of 2026, Todd McFarlane, the Todd Father, will not be doing any more DC action figures at all. And that includes his re-releases of the Batman the Animated Series action figure line will have come to an end.
Can I say something?
You're celebrating because our bank balance will look a little bit better.
No, there's two things I need to say then.
Go on then.
You've reminded me of something. So back in November, when I found out about the Harley and Ivy Barbies, which I pre-ordered and everything like that, I had a feeling that either Mattel was going to be able to get more DC stuff again and be able to do more Barbies, or they were going to be working with somebody. So I was kind of right. And the second thing is that Barbies are more expensive than the Todd Fathers thing.
Yes, they are. So if we end up with more DC Barbies, then sorry, bank manager, you got to give me more money.
We told the podcast that I collect them.
No.
So I love Barbie. Barbie's been a big part of my life since I was a little girl. And I have never been ashamed to say that, even before the movie made her really popular again, which I'm so happy about, because I think I want to share the Barbie love. But I had a lot of Barbies. No friends, but a lot of Barbies. And I didn't get to keep any of them because, I moved cross countries, la-di-da-di-da, one suitcase and that. But recently, Luke and I have started to find the Barbies from the DC releases that they've done. I've got the Batgirl. I don't have her on a bike, do I?
You do.
Oh, no, I did get her on the bike. So I have two of her, don't I? So I have two Batgirls. I have two separate Harleys. I have two different Ivies. I know this is weird, and I told you guys I was never going to watch it, but I think I'm going to end up watching the 2004 Catwoman.
Ooh, the Halle Berry movie.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I love Halle Berry. Like, I love Halle Berry. Like, y'all don't even know. She has just been my queen for a long time. She's been one of my queens for a long time. And her acting ability is superior in every type of, I'm saying the right thing, right? Mm-hmm. Superior.
Yes,
yeah. In every way. So I probably won't like this movie.
No,
but
it's not very well made. I watched a clip of it recently, and I was like, "Oh my God, how they made so many!"
Was it the clip I sent you when she was like, "Wow"?
No, it was for a video I was recording, and I wanted to use some cutaway from that movie.
But yeah, so that was the news bits and updates. But yeah, I collect Barbie DC stuff, so for me, this I think is a good thing. I also think it's a sad time because I really liked the direction that the Todd father was going, which was literally bringing back the 90s. Like, you know what I mean? Like, actually, like, better versions of the 90s toys. And I hope um, Mattel continue on doing loads of stuff because maybe we'll get actual merch, like t-shirts and stuff. Let's talk about other stuff, though.
One very quick thing.
Okay.
You forgot to mention that you've got the Supergirl Barbie.
Oh, yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Which is the DCAU Supergirl.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. Out of all of them, I would say the Harley Quinn is my number 2. My number 1 is probably the DCAU Supergirl.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you why. It's the hat.
The hat.
Yeah, the jester hat.
Oh,
that's not.
Right.
I think it should have been filled, like with a little bit of. I mean, I could do that, but I'm not going to open it.
No.
My husband has taught me bad things by not opening things. Speaking of Batman and DC things, let's get into today's topic, which I don't know a ton about, but I do know one thing, and I think Luke knows as well, but I'll talk about one thing in a little bit of detail. Mm-hmm. Not too much, because I mean, come on, I gotta keep on brand. And that is Jack Kirby.
Yeah, so I really wanted to talk about the influence of Jack Kirby on the DC animated universe.
Should we do a little tiny bio of Jack Kirby's, the beginnings of his comics and stuff? Because I wanted to make
a little thing. All right, fair enough. All right, so Jack Kirby is probably one of the most significant comic book creators in history, particularly American comic book creators.
Definitely American comics.
Well, I would argue globally as well, because he had quite a big influence on French artists as well.
I would say more of the definitely American, because he did a lot of Captain America.
Yeah, he co-created Captain America when he was, I think he was only in his early 20s. I could be mistaken though.
What year? That must have come out in the 30s?
I forget off the top of my head. This isn't a Marvel podcast.
Yeah.
But it was before it was before he went off to fight in World War II.
So this is the thing that I know. Well, I know 2 things about Jack Kirby, and this is probably the only 2 things that I know about. I know that he had a big ideas about the McCarthy, I think it's McCarthy era type things, the anti-communist thing, and I believe he made some comics about it as well. I don't know what, like, if they were pre-done with like Captain America or if he had his own set of comics. Mm-hmm. But I know that he did some of them because I've seen them. I'm not in person, but I've seen little clips of them. And I have to say this, not my favorites. I love like old comic book styles and everything, but I'm just not different values, I think. But going on to the main thing that I know Jack Kirby with, around the same time, he was doing those types of comics and just being very vocal about that, was the young romance novel, the young romance comics started.
Yes, that's right.
It started shortly after that. So in 47, I think it started. I had to look that up earlier.
Yes, I read read an article about his romance comics works, and basically he noticed a gap in the market and tried to fill it, and it was very successful, and he made a lot of money.
And today, this is something that I found out recently. I mean, both of us have found out recently that these comics are actually still very popular. Yeah. I mean, I'm not Gen Z by any means. I am what is my generation?
Millennial.
I'm a millennial to the core, but I love Pinterest, and I have found a lot of the young romance comic strips, not comic strips, but comic pages on Pinterest, and I have pinned hundreds, like, of the things, probably some of the same ones, but that's what I know, and I feel that that's so cool, because it's It's 2025, and those comics about just like 1940s, 1950s, 1960s couples sometimes are still relevant in terms of how, like, it was really great because it was a good feminine feel sometimes. And in that era, again, in my opinion, the feminine feel didn't really get felt.
Mm-hmm.
That felt like a tongue teaser. But sorry I interrupted you about that, but it's very important to talk about this in particular because when we're trying to tie this back to the DCAU eventually.
Yeah, I'll get there, don't worry.
Yeah, I feel that that's really important because some of the stuff from the DCAU, I feel, again, my feelings, I'm in my feels today, that these people had to have read some of these young romance comics when they were younger.
They probably would have done, yes.
When I look at some of them, I see Lois Lane. I know that sounds ridiculous. I mean, I don't see her as in like her actual character, but I can see that she would say some of these things, and like with the, the gumption, and it's really really great, and I love the fact that the Jack Kirby, who's such a big person in comic books, almost a century later,
yeah,
we're still feeling his influence, and I don't think it's ever going to stop.
No, I don't think it ever will, because when the comic book industry started up in roughly the 1930s, Jack Kirby was one of the first people through the door. And actually, his real name is Jacob Kurtzberg. So he was one of those people of Jewish descent who felt that the only way that he could get ahead in life was by changing his name to something a bit...
I don't like that. I love, like, so many people around that era, like including writers, artists, filmmakers changed their name. But whenever I look at their original name, I'm just like, why? And then I'm like, well, I know why. But nowadays they would be like, yes, put that on a t-shirt.
I mean, the same thing happened with Stan Lee. His name is Stanley, or excuse me, his name was Stanley Lieber.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so yeah. But yeah, I mean, mentioning Stan Lee did a lot of work with Jack Kirby to co-create characters like the Fantastic Four, the original X-Men. My mind's just gone blank on other ones. The Mighty Thor. Basically, almost every major Marvel character apart from Spider-Man, I think, and Doctor Strange, because those were Steve Ditko. But I just wanted to share with you a quote from Kirby when he talks about his time during World War II, because I think this is really kind of central to like a lot of his creations. And he said, "I had a guy die on me once during the war, and he looked up at me and he said, 'What the hell happened? What happened?' And here I was, just a schmo from the east side of New York City, you know. And how do you answer the guy? I told him, 'You happened.' See? And that was real. It got me to think about how valuable human beings are, and at that moment I discovered my own humanity. In that moment I discovered everybody else's."
That's beautiful.
It is. It's very touching.
What's great about that is you can see that in a lot of his creations and co-creations, because it's always like with again with Stan Lee as well, it's always about saving what? Humanity.
Yeah.
It's always about saving other people, the superhero themselves, or the main person in the comic, like say Batman, who isn't, in my opinion, a superhero. He is an actual hero. They're saving everyone else.
Yes. So I guess to kind of try and tie this back into the DCAU, so Jack Kirby left Marvel in the 1970s because he was dissatisfied with...
That joke's going to get real old.
I know. I was about to say Marvel.
Marvel?
Because he was dissatisfied with his working relationship with Stan Lee, and I won't. Well, I've heard this story from two separate people who said that Jack Kirby was the nicest man they ever met. He never had a bad word to say about anyone, except for Stan Lee, who he called a very nasty expletive. Let's put it that way. I remember reading a story that someone was doing like a "This Is Your Life" feature. I think it was on it for a TV show. It might have been radio. I think it was radio actually on Stan Lee. Not knowing the relationship between Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, they said, "And here's your friend and co-creator, Jack Kirby." And Stan was like, "Oh no!"
Were they actually talking to each other?
Yeah, on the phone.
Were they cordial at least?
No.
Okay.
At least that's the version of the story I heard. I don't know how true that is.
So this is with me and anybody that lives in Oklahoma. Yeah. Well, not really, but that's the joke.
But anyway, he leaves Marvel in, I guess, 1970, maybe 1971, and he goes to DC, and DC make a big fanfare of this. They put out all these adverts saying Kirby is coming. And he immediately goes to work on some of his own creations. He did also work on the Jimmy Olsen comic.
Yeah.
And it's in the Jimmy Olsen comic that he introduced Darkseid and the New Gods, etc. That kind of, he calls it the Fourth World Saga. And the thing that was very interesting about Jack Kirby's contract with DC is that he had full creative control for the most part, where he wrote his work, he edited his own work, he drew it, he had someone ink it and someone colour it, but he basically had full creative carte blanche over everything that was released. So he created characters like, obviously, Darkseid, Bruno Mannheim, Orion, all the New Gods characters, so Calibac, Desad, Granny Goodness, and so on, Mr. Miracle.
Just remember, I'm sorry that I was laughing about Granny Goodness.
Why are you laughing about Granny Goodness?
Some of the things, there's a phrase that she says.
Ninny Nunu.
We laugh about it on a daily basis.
Yeah, I'm going to start calling Gilgamesh a Ninny Nunu.
That's exactly who I thought of when she said it when we watched it this last couple of days.
Yeah, for people that don't listen to every single episode of this, Gilgamesh is our cat.
Yeah.
But he also co-created characters like Omak. Oh, excuse me, co-created. He fully created characters like Omak, Cobra, like the head of Cobra, and Etrigan the Demon.
He created Etrigan.
Yes, he did. Yeah, and he eventually left left DC in the mid-70s. So he spent, I don't know, about 5 years there, something like that, 5-6 years, before going back to Marvel, because he was kind of fed up. And one of like the frustrating things was that Jack Kirby had his own very distinct art style, and he was drawing Superman in the Jimmy Olsen comics.
Mm-hmm.
But DC were very protective of Superman's look, specifically his face. So they would get approved artist Kurt Swan to redraw Superman's face in Jack Kirby's pages. So you'd have these like beautifully staged Jack Kirby pages, very dynamic, very energetic, and then you just have like Kurt Swan has drawn a face over the top of it. I mean, that's no disservice to Kurt Swan, who is like one of the definitive classic Superman artists, but it just looked kind of weird. But anyway, after leaving Marvel, Jack Kirby then started working in animation. And he worked at a number of companies, including Ruby Spears, where he worked with Dan Reba.
Where do I know that name from? Not Dan Reba. I know Dan Reba because Dan Reba is a legend and an icon.
Yeah.
But Ruby
Spears.
Yeah, where do I know that from?
I'm trying to think of any. Did you ever watch Turbo Teen?
Nobody know of it.
Yeah, maybe that's. They did another car show as well. I can't think of it off the top of my head. Ruby Spears, as in like a javelin that you throw. Mary's just looking it up now because we never do research ahead of time. But there was another. I'm not entirely certain if this. Oh my God, they did Mr. T. Alvin and the Chipmunks. Can you imagine if Jack Kirby worked on Mr. T?
Speed Racer. No, that was somebody else.
No, Speed Racer was a Japanese show, wasn't it?
I don't know.
I think it was.
Know that it came on.
Big Mikey P, come to the rescue. I invoke you.
Did you watch Speed Racer, Big Mikey P?
What, the movie or the
No,
cartoon?
that card. Wait, what movie?
um, I guess just kind of wrap this up. So Jack Kirby transitioned. What, Punky Brewster?
It's probably those because they had one of those like '80s type of logos.
Yeah, yes, they did. They did.
From the '80s things, not necessarily Punky Brewster, but
I'm trying to finish my rambling story here.
that's fine.
So he basically then spent like the last part of his career in animation and then doing some like independent comics. But in working in animation, he came into contact with a lot of people that would go on to work on shows like Batman the Animated Series. I read a very amusing story from Ted Blackman, who was the background designer, like I guess the lead background designer on Batman the Animated Series, and he did Batman Beyond Return of the Joker as well, where he said that he felt very stressed in one job because Jack Kirby had delivered some character designs and he had been told to correct them, and Jack Kirby was there with him looking over his shoulder as he was redrawing stuff for Jack Kirby, and he kind of had a moment of realization of what was happening, and he became very panicked and apologetic and like, oh my god, what am I doing? This is Jack Kirby, I don't get to change his stuff. But apparently Jack Kirby was very polite about it. He was very interested. He goes, oh, okay, yeah, show me what I'm supposed to be doing instead.
And see, that's the type of thing that you want in an artistic community, is that you want to be able to not change something about someone, but be able to put your artistic input in.
Yes.
And he seems to be like that. I don't know, obviously don't know him personally, but it seems that you've named two instances now where people have helped create the different face of the characters.
Yes, yeah, having to redesign his work because his art style is very distinctive, but you can see his influence on Bruce Timm. So Bruce Timm, when he draws the characters, I'm particularly thinking about like the bodies and the limbs. He very much works in like straight lines with like curved lines opposite them. So if you think of the shape of, say, Batman's arm, the underside of his arm is always perfectly straight.
It's very mathematical, isn't it?
Yes, and then there's like curved biceps and forearms. It's the offsetting of the curves with the straight lines, and Jack Kirby very much did that, although he was a bit squarer. I mean, Mary's just brought up a whole bunch of Bruce Timm sketches on Google image searches here.
To me, because I've looked at some of these before. It is very mathematical. I'm using basically you would see it in arithmetic, like the curves and things like that. I didn't. I'm just gonna say that. Completely C student there in math. So thank you.
Yeah.
But that's what I see.
Bruce Timm is obviously also influenced by Alex Toth, who he was a teacher at one of the art schools that I think Dan Reber went there. Dan, correct me if I'm wrong. I know that Dan learned from Will Eisner as well, who's one of the most significant comic book artists of the 20th century. He developed the concept of the graphic novel, I suppose, in a way. Really, I mean, it just blows my mind that I know someone that knew all of these people, like Alex Toth and Jack Kirby, and I'm getting completely
I'm looking at the
bamboozled.
Jack Kirby Superman face in one of his sketches. I'm not that I would prefer that nowadays. I can understand the different around that time, but nowadays that would be perfect in a comic book.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been back then as well.
Yeah, but it's so great. It reminds me of, I have no idea why, but it reminds me of like the old Western like thing.
I know what you're saying. Yeah, like old West comic books. And do you know why? Probably because Jack Kirby drew those as well.
Oh, really?
He probably did. Yeah.
Is that the name of them, or
Western cartoon comic books?
The names of them, but you would see them like, I think they would have like cigarette ads or something that look very similar to that as well.
Yeah. He has, in my mind, what I think of as like an American art style. Yeah. If there is an American art style, there's lots of different types of American art style. But Kirby is very much like a kind of it's a pop American art style.
I can definitely see that just looking through um some of these. Like, definitely.
Now, the thing I was trying to say at the start before we went off and actually talked about who Jack Kirby was, because, quite rightly you pointed out there will be people listening that've got no idea who he is.
Like me.
Yeah. But one of the things I loved about the DC animated universe is the way that the writers and the artists, they went to the comic book source material and they found all of the best things and got rid of everything that sucked and then added their own stuff. So, for instance, pretty much every villain in Batman the Animated Series is unlike their comic book counterpart. Apart from Ra's al Ghul, I'd say. He's probably the most like. And you look at how they changed villains like the Parasite or Brainiac in Superman the Animated Series. In the comic books, Brainiac is a green-skinned alien that wears really short shorts and collects cities in bottles. And as we know in Superman the Animated Series, he is the artificial intelligence that ran Krypton, that fled and left Krypton to its doom, and now has a mission of collecting knowledge. And when it has visited a society and collected as much knowledge as it can, it destroys the society because knowledge is only valuable if few people know it.
Do you know what that reminds me of? And this is just going off topic a little bit. Brainiac reminds me of tycoons a little bit, because they go into a place like, I don't know if a lot of people here are well of a lot of American theme parks, and I'm not talking about like Six Flags or anything. I'm talking about like, I guess we would call them mom pa type of like roller coaster worlds and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you would have one of these places come in a relatively small town or city, right? Uh-huh. And then because of that, it's creating employment. It's creating a community, an economic community there. And it's doing that, and it's creating all of this, but it's, instead of information, it's money. Mm-hmm. It's doing all of this. And then once, after a couple of years or however many years, maybe a decade in some cases, once the money's run up, they go. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what, I know that's silly, but that's
that is kind of right.
Reminds me of. And I say that because there's in Superman, when you're looking at the orbs that signify all of the different planets that they have mined, essentially. Yeah. It reminds me of old. Again, this is just me. By the way, it's a lot later than we usually record, so if I'm just kind of airy-fairy, that's great. But it reminds me of like stickers on a suitcase. In a sense, so
I know what you mean.
Yeah,
like they've just their little collection.
Yeah, and you'd get stickers like that from theme parks or like airports and stuff like that. And it's, yeah.
Now the reason I bring this up is when it came time for them to work on Superman, they basically just adapted Jack Kirby's Fourth World comics loosely, but they didn't make any changes to his characters. Mm-hmm. Even their designs were pretty much exactly the same. They even incorporated Kirby design elements into their characters in Superman. So, for instance, that white outfit that the Parasite wears. I mean, I think it's generous to call it an outfit because it's a couple of like little strips that looks like he went to like an adult store to buy himself an outfit. But it's very
fun begins. Nobody's gonna get that reference. No, nobody's gonna get that reference.
But it was very much in a kind of a Jack Kirby design ethic, because he would ethic, is that even the right word? Basically, you know what I mean. And his style. When he would design characters and their outfits, he would put like some trim on the outfit in those patterns. Mm-hmm. As you can see with characters like, say, Mr. Miracle. Or Granny Goodness, she's got similar like lines on her outfit.
It's as if like it's a piping.
Yeah, it's basically there to design, to emphasize their body shapes, really, more than anything. And they this is the thing that kind of surprised me. Is just how they just didn't change. They didn't change anything really. It was all very faithful to the comics. Because to be honest, I when I was a kid, I didn't really care for Jack Kirby stuff that much. I thought his faces on his characters all looked the same. But as I've been reading more of his stuff digitally through the DC Infinite app, I really got into it. And like Mr. Miracle is my favourite series of his, I think. And so much so that I decided I was going to start collecting the physical copies.
I think I know that's recently you've started to really get into that.
Yeah.
Collecting them anyway.
Yes, yeah, and I told myself this year I'm going to get most of them, and I got most of them in a week. What is wrong with me? But there's just the thing that I really like about Jack Kirby's comics is that in a single issue there are so many different ideas and concepts and characters that it's like 10 times as much as you would see in a regular comic from anyone else of the era. And sometimes they're just complete like throwaway concepts that he just puts out there. Like, for instance, the leader of Cobra. So, for anyone that doesn't know, you'll find this out when we eventually watch my video about Xander from Cobra in Batman Beyond. The character of Cobra was originally like this, I guess, like obviously he's a cult leader. And he was being investigated by his twin brother, who was a policeman. And it was Kirby that came up with the idea that, you know, they are twins on opposite sides of the law. And he said, what if they had like a psychic connection where whatever one feels, the other one experiences? And that's just a complete throwaway idea. Something apparently he didn't even really care about Cobra very much. He did the first issue, and after he did that, he decided to leave DC. But it's just an interesting concept that just comes out of nowhere.
So what year did he leave DC? Do you know?
I think it was 76. It might have been 75, but it was mid-70s.
Do you think because he died in 94?
Yes.
Again, I looked it up because I was looking up young romance. But do you think he'd seen BTAS by then?
Yeah, I think he would have seen it. Yeah. I think he probably would have liked it. Yes, I think so.
Because it's very, I think of a lot of the DC, if not all of it, the DCAU, especially with Batman and Superman and Justice League. I feel that the creators, in the 90s and in 2000s, created a lot of the stories that, Kirby and the others and the like wanted to do, but because of censorship and all of that and the time, they couldn't do. And I find that fascinating.
Yes, yeah. I was just going to say as well. Obviously, you mentioned that Kirby died in 1994, and Superman the Animated Series didn't start airing until 95, maybe 96. Sorry, I can't remember off the top of my head. But they actually put Kirby into the show as Detective Dan Turpin, who is a character that Jack Kirby created in the New Gods, I believe. It might have been in... Oh. No, it was in New Gods. It was in New Gods.
He kind of has the hair.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the eyebrows as well. It's the hair and the eyebrows.
I can't see that.
Now, obviously Turpin was younger, but, Jack Kirby in his youth was, someone fighting for democracy, anti-fascist, 100% anti-fascist.
Think of today.
Oh, I think he'd probably be lacing up his boots and going out on the streets and punching his fist, going, right, it's time to crack some Nazi skulls again. And you have to remember as well, when he drew that cover for Captain America #1 with Captain America punching out Hitler.
Oh, see,
this was before. There's Mary's looking at the cover right there. This was before America had entered into the war. This is when America was supposed to be like a neutral figure in the war.
And because Kirby had by this time he had been over there before?
No, I think he was going afterwards. Yeah.
So he must have had more news availability to him, because I know a lot of people from around that time did, especially where I'm from, obviously, because I'm from the South Midwest, didn't actually know who the H guy was.
Mm.
I say that because I just do.
Well, remember that he was Jewish, and he would
Yeah,
have seen the
yeah,
anti-Jewish propaganda, and you never know, he may have had family over there.
yeah,
He may have lost them.
yeah. And
Uh,
that's, doing something like Captain America hitting Hitler.
yeah.
Like, not just hitting him, like slapping him, like, you know, Lex Luthor would slap Superman,
Hmm.
like a little bitch slap. It is a full on. This is TKO. Okay, this is punch out characters. Okay,
Hmm.
it's not. It's powerful, and the movement in it is striking. Um, and I'm not gonna say I love it, because I don't. Captain America's not. He's not my favorite comic book character. I think we all know who that is. Um, Divine. Um,
Hmm.
but it's so striking. And what year was this?
41, I believe.
41. So 1941. And this is not the times. This is not your sketch, your political sketch that you're known for and everything. This is a comic book character. This is a comic book, an issue of a comic book that, let's be honest, a lot of comic books were geared toward teens
And younger.
and younger. And I believe that's just such a powerful thing to say, yes, we know this is wrong and this guy is an ass.
Hmm.
And you know what? I think that probably helped people that were gonna and were, did end up going over there too. They probably saw something like this.
Yes, they did.
And, probably this itself, and that probably helped them get through that, because that was one of the, I can't even fathom what those men and women went through.
Was there a draft in the US for World War II, or was it voluntary?
I think most of it was voluntary, but I don't think we had the bigger draft until
Until Vietnam
or
or Korea?
Korea.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, I don't know this for a fact. It's something I should have looked up, but I would imagine that Kirby probably would have enlisted.
Yeah, probably.
World War draft operated from 1940 till 46, when further inductions were suspended, apparently. So there we go.
So was there? Yeah.
There was a draft, yes. Okay.
But a lot of people went over there willingly.
Yeah, that's right.
I think more so than they would now.
Now, if I can just get back to Dan Turpin.
Hey,
Get back to Dan Turpin. So he
talking about important things here.
in the New Gods comics, Dan Turpin is the detective investigating the crimes that are taking place in Metropolis at the hands of Darkseid. And as just a little tangent, I love that how Darkseid just kind of mingles in the real world. He's like seen in there's this panel that I included in my Darkseid video where Orion's like rescued these people that are being studied by Darkseid for the why did you keep laughing every time I say Orion?
It's his little like machine that he's
little,
on.
yeah.
It's so weird. I want one so bad.
That's a classic Kirby design, that. But
it's just like the way he's on it in this like really ultra modern cartoon, and then he literally looks like he was grabbed out of the 1950s.
it looks like he's got a Zimmer frame, doesn't it? Yes.
I don't know what that
A
is.
Zimmer frame. It's like old people used to help them walk.
Oh, Walker.
Yeah.
Kind of.
But anyway, so Orion's rescued these people from Darkseid. Darkseid's trying to find the solution to the anti-life equation within them. And he's like, "Hold! Do not enter this room, for it is cursed." And it's just a regular office. It's just a regular office. And Darkseid's just sat there in a comfy chair and he goes, "Any room I am in is cursed." Hello, Orion.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, sure.
Did he ever find it?
Well, you could argue that he has solved the anti-life equation because he's created the absolute universe in the comics, where it's a universe permeated with his negativity. So basically, he controls everything there. But the reason I was talking about that is Dan Turpin is this regular tough guy, beat cop, always willing to get into a fist fight first. And he has to deal with these aliens that are basically causing trouble in Metropolis. And he tries to beat up Calibac, and it does not go very well for him. But then when he is put into Superman the Animated Series, I remember you saying you didn't like Dan Turpin at first.
This time, I think it's because of your video. I've kind of seen him through a different light, and it's not the angry uncle that is kind of inappropriate sometimes.
It's always getting a little bit too drunk at the family socials for the 5-year-old's birthday.
No, it's for the christening. Come on,
the christening, yeah, okay.
The christening that we don't have because we're not Catholic.
Yeah,
showed up at a christening.
But he was very much front and center in the New God stuff in Superman the Animated Series as well. He was there for what was that episode called? Damn, I've forgotten what it's called. Something like Hardware, maybe. Where Bruno Mannheim's Intergang are given apocalyptian weapons by Darkseid to start causing trouble and pave the way for Darkseid's arrival. But Dan Turpin's there front and center, like climbing over Bruno Mannheim's fence, witnessing all these impossible machines that they're using, and then he's like, right, I'm going to arrest them, and then obviously that does not go very well for him at all. And then when you think of the episode Apocalypse Now, obviously the thing that comes to mind is the fact that Darkseid murders him. So, you know, Turpin's there in the front line of the apocalyptian invasion. He's like punching out parademons. He's helping Jimmy Olsen.
And Superman never forgets.
Yeah, Superman never forgets what happens, yes. And, you know, when Darkseid is forced to leave, it's Turpin that's like jeering him, going, yeah, you bum, get out of here. And Darkseid shoots him with his Omega beams and incinerates him. Smiles and then leaves. And all Superman can do is just punch a left behind tank. You know, it's a symbol of Darkseid's war. It's just a completely impotent moment for him as he just smashes it to pieces and screams and shouts. And everyone's crying. It's awful, absolutely terrible. Wonderful emotional moment. One of the things I really liked about Dan Turpin's funeral, they don't make a big deal out of the fact he's Jewish. They've just got someone singing a song in Hebrew at the start.
Mm-hmm.
Might even be reading the Torah, possibly. I don't know. Sorry, I don't know an awful lot about Judaism.
Because this was in 97?
96, 97, maybe.
97. I didn't, for someone who lived in, you know, the middle of America, I didn't know a ton about any other religions.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice that, and this isn't the only time they talk about other religions in the DCAU either, but it's the subtlety of it. But then, you know, it's a subtlety, but then when you actually think about it, it's a big deal, because there might be, like, you know, a Jewish kid watching that and be like, hey, yeah.
Yeah, oh, I know that song. Yeah, and the one of the things I really liked is that
when I said that.
One of the things I really like is the crowd. You know, the mourners at the funeral.
Mm-hmm.
The creative team drew themselves in, like Bruce Timm's in there. Alex Ross is in there as well. You know, the guy who does the really realistic paintings.
Bob Ross?
Alex Ross, not Bob Ross. The guy that did the Crisis painting that we've got.
I thought you were talking about the...
No, I'm not talking about Bob.
You said realistic paintings. I was like, Bob Ross?
Yeah, Bob Ross went to Dan Turpin's funeral.
I mean, he probably would have.
Yeah, he probably would have done, and painted this is a very sad tree. Anyway, but they also included a lot of his Marvel creations, like the Fantastic Four are there, and Nick Fury. It's a really great episode of Apocalypse Now. And I think it's kind of funny that they originally planned, or at least this is how they got past the censors with, like, killing Dan Turpin. They said, oh yeah, he's going to be transported to Apocalypse because that's what Darkseid's Omega beams do sometimes. But the show ended before they had the chance to follow through on that idea, so Dan Turpin ended up just being murdered. Yeah.
I still think that they could have brought him back, but I think it was a see, I could see both sides of wanting to do it and then not doing it, because that was a vital part of the Superman story.
Yeah.
That was a massive part, and the fact that he does mention him in Justice League
Yeah.
when he sees Darkseid again before he quote unquote helps him, and he says something about you murdered Dan, like, or something like that. And I love the fact that they mentioned him, and they kind of, it was at that point that you knew he was not just teleported somewhere else, he was gone.
And that I really liked. I love the just, it's such a beautiful tribute to Jack Kirby that this character that represented him was killed off by his most famous creation, Darkseid. I think he probably would have got a kick out of that. But to reference that scene that you were talking about, I think it's in the last episode of Superman. That's Legacy Part 2, isn't it? I think. Like Superman's, he's like beating up Darkseid, says that's for Dan Turpin, and Darkseid goes,
Yes,
who?
that's what it was.
Who?
Yeah.
And Superman, that just shows the difference between Darkseid and Superman. Superman knows the individual. Darkseid doesn't care about anyone. All he cares about is, air quote, order. And the Michael Ironside's performance in that is really good as well. Like when he's beating up Superman, he goes, "Had I known that killing one human would pain you so, I would have killed more." Such a good series, and people don't talk about it enough. So Superman, yeah, Superman.
Yeah, I love it. Obviously, I love it because one of my favorite comic book, not I mean, one of my favorite DCAU characters is Lois Lane, and for good reason, because although her character didn't have the biggest, background and all of that, you got kind of like the bare minimum with most of it, she still made a huge impact. And sometimes some of us don't want you to know everything about them, but we want to make an impact. And it's absolutely lovely. I wish more people would talk about Estas.
Yes, yeah. And well, maybe they will now, because this is the year of Superman. If the Superman movie does well, I mean, I'm going to do more Superman videos this year just to kind of hopefully ride the wave of the new Superman movie.
I think I'm gonna do some as well. I haven't the slightest idea about Superman pre Reeves, which will be interesting to find out, because I'm sure you'll talk about that in some of your videos.
I might do. Every time I do a Superman video, someone chimes in and goes, "Why didn't you mention the Fleischer movies?" And I was like, "Because it's not about them."
Well, I was looking for those today, actually.
Well, they're all on YouTube in glorious
I don't know why I was
HD.
looking on Prime. But I was looking on that, and then I got sidetracked by something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but anyway, I think Jack Kirby, his influence is felt very firmly in the DC animated universe, particularly after Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I forgot to mention he created Clarion the Witch Boy as well. Yeah, I know. No. Well, that would have upset you, and we would have had to have cancelled the episode. I have to talk about something else.
Who?
But it's very telling that the central villain of Superman the Animated Series and Justice League Unlimited is Darkseid, Kirby's most famous creation. And I feel like I've said, I mean, this has been a bit rambly and all over the place. I mean, like it always is, right? But I think we're done talking now, Mary, unless there's anything you wanted to add.
Yeah, so I'm thankful that we have someone like Jack Kirby to come in and put a lot, and I'm just gonna repeat myself again. I feel that a lot of people that worked in comics and in comic related TV shows, movies, animated shows, all of that. They have put a lot of their personal life and personal struggles and political beliefs, and then they also show the other side. And I feel that with any other thing, it would be so different. Like, say, for example, if Elmo told you who they voted for. We all know who Elmo voted for. I'm getting really sick to my stomach thinking about the puppet. But we all know. That's the only thing I could think about. But with comic book characters, they go in depth. Not necessarily about who they voted for, whatever. But it's so much detail. And it started with people like Jack Kirby.
Mm-hmm.
And then come to find out, he is a big part of romance novels because of his comics.
Yeah.
His young romance comics. And not just that, a lot of the there's a lot of movies and TV shows that were kind of not based off of his work, but people like writers and creators around my time had definitely grew up reading those comics, and you can definitely tell.
Mm-hmm.
Like in some of my favorite books, you can definitely tell if they were a Marvel fan or if they were, excuse me, it's not Marvel, it's Marvel fan or a detective comic.
Captain Marvel.
Who?
Ouch.
Well, shall we get to the comments?
Yeah, let's go over to the comments. Okay, so the first comment is, new commenter on this podcast anyway.
Okay.
Number one dad, who says, haha, great intro. I have no interest in the subject of this podcast. Yes, I know. Sometimes I am too, not too honest, maybe too blunt.
Yeah, too head on.
Yeah. But, I think that's why people like listening to our stuff,
That's
maybe.
fine.
I don't know.
Try being married to you sometimes when you're like, oh, do I look nice in this? He literally moves his head, and then literally within like half a second is back at whatever else is doing. Yeah, sure. Which is fine because he never says like, ugh, to what I'm dressed in anyway.
Next, we have Lowell Lucas Jr., who has put a bunch of musical note emojis in here, but I'm not going to sing. Hey, today it's totally Schway. Mary's back, so let's all sing hip hop. Hip hip hooray. Let's all sing hip hop. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I would.
Luke came to Mary's aid. Hey Mary, just glad to hear you're feeling better. Just isn't totally Schway without you. Yeah, I remember I did a couple of episodes without Mary after she had nasal surgery, and like most of the comments were like, "Yeah, this is fine, but when's Mary coming back?" I was like, "Yeah, all right, fine, whatever. No, it's my channel. All right, fine, I'm there. Okay, I'm not bothered by it. Don't care.
Totally not bothered by it."
Yeah. Nobody calls me Bub anymore, and Big Mikey P's. He said Big Mikey P's a bedwetter, apparently.
What?
It's what the big P stands for, and he's very ashamed. Joke, Big Mikey P.
I'm sure he's laughing about that.
Well, for a second, I bet he thought, what? Who told him? No.
It's only water in the bed, I swear. I'm not allowed to have anything other than Stanley cups near the bed anymore because I
constantly spill things.
Yeah.
All honestly, glad you're getting better. I'm having some eye issues. Oh no, so I'm getting some treatment taken care of soon. Keep me in prayers.
Oh, I will.
So to Luke, from some of us American shoppers, Best Buy is a mixed bag. Oh, we'll go for the figures and electronics, but without their Blu-rays and DVDs, it's very low priority on the shopping list.
Do they not have them anymore?
They don't carry physical media anymore, I don't think.
I don't buy, unless it's like a vintage thing, I don't buy physical media anymore because I don't have the space.
Mm-hmm. Sad shame, as I got many great combo packs from them and even the complete Berserk box of War DVD set. On to that ship train. One ship I like to think of is the Creeper and Harley. Oh, sure, he came off strong. Superhuman even, but without Mr. J after the Tim Drake incident. I could see her getting with our wild, crazy, wacky man.
I can see that too.
Especially since then he's a hero on board the Justice League Watchtower. Perhaps he was just that kind of crazy, yet positive influence on her that could turn our clown queen of crime straight into spanking her future granddaughters, the DD twins.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Mary, no one talks about the question, as nobody wants to talk about the man who rummages through everyone's garbage and knows of diabolical purposes. He knows too much.
We need the question.
Oh, excuse me, I missed off a word there. He knows of Aglet's diabolical purposes. He knows too much. Also, on a random tangent, has no one ever talked about Barbara and her future husband? We see him briefly in comics and in Batman Beyond, but no one ever talks about it. Oh, we'll hear about Bruce and Barbara with scorn, which honestly I was never bothered about, as they're two consenting adults. That said, I'm sure her husband was a good cop in his day. He was a lawyer, if we're talking about the same guy in Batman Beyond. Before becoming Gotham's future mayor, he was the district attorney. But it is a shame that he would never know his beautiful wife was the alluring Batgirl, and nobody says a thing, lol. Well, till then, you two, hope you have a healthy Valentine's Day and get better. Wishing you great health, Mary, and take care. Also, Seven Samurai is both a film and a TV animated series, so you're both not wrong.
See, I knew it. Lowell to my rescue.
Mm-hmm. Next.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go on.
Lowell, I hope everything with your eyes are, by this time going better. I understand eye problems. Not to the severity of yours, fortunately for myself, but you are always in my thoughts. You, Mikey P, Doc, Chris, Captain. I would list everybody. It would take about
You're terrible with names.
Yeah.
You recognize the profile pictures.
Oh, and Julia Rule. Love the videos, by the way.
Right, so next we have Time Lord Victorious, who says, love day can be any day. I guess Batman and the Phantasm is an example of a tragic love relationship. Yes, it is. Mm-hmm. Very true. Very, very true. Next, a new commenter, I think. Apologies if you've commented before, but it's Seal Unit 2000, who says, the subject of shipping. This is going to be a minefield. Well, I hope it wasn't too explosive.
I think ours was very tame compared to some of the stuff afterwards I've seen on the internet. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Some people are very graphic. I mean, that's not a bad thing sometimes, but oh my god. Some of the fan fiction out there. Whew. Yeah.
So on to Ryan Jones's comment next, who says, I've been really excited about this episode to talk about my favourite ship, and I can't stop thinking about from the DCAU. Batman and Harley Quinn in an alternate universe of the DCAU, in which Harley did reform after Harley's holiday. Harley and Bruce date. Later down the road, she finds out Bruce is Batman, moves into Wayne Manor and gets married to him and joins the Justice League. I love this ship because she could bring him out of his shell, and he would bring her lots of self-love and confidence to her.
Yeah.
In the episode, there's a hint of them having a soft spot for one another, and I wish that was explored more. But anyway, at least there's the White Knight universe that shipped them. I don't have a good Valentine's Day week, well, apart from Saturday and Sunday, because I was very depressed that I didn't have a girlfriend to celebrate with this year, which is why my mum got me Mickey and Minnie Valentine's plushies to cheer me up. Which they did, by the way. Also, on one of the days, I was looking on my iPad and found an old movie that I made at my nanny and granddad's house when they were alive, and I cried to myself because I think about them every day, and the video reminded me of the memories I had at their house. Also, as someone who loves the Smurfs, I was very sad to see the Smurfs 2025 trailer, because it was awful and cringe, and also it doesn't help that James Corden is in the movie. Oh dear.
I really don't like James Gordon.
James Gordon. Mary doesn't like James Gordon either. Commissioner Gordon.
Oh no, I love James Gordon, but I meant to say Corden.
Yeah. I don't like him because he is the one that threw the visual effects artists that had lost their jobs because the company shut down under the bus for a Cats joke at the Oscars, which is hypocritical coming from him, because in the first trailer, Cats is not just the visual effects that are bad, it's also his unfunny joke that he made in the trailer. But I did love the Fantastic Four trailer, and I hope the movie is good and not like the 2015 Fantastic Four movie. Like, seriously, why did we have to see the Thing naked? The charity I found for you, Mary, to help LGBT community in America is called Lambada Legal. Fun fact, last year was Donald Duck's 90th birthday, and he was my granddad's favourite Disney character because he was born the same year as him. That is an interesting fact. Thank you. Thank you for that, Ryan.
What? He's really that old?
Donald Duck.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been around for a long time.
Oh, I didn't know that. He's 95.
Was it 90?
Or 90 or 95.
I literally read it out a moment ago, and I've got to go back and check. 90th, yeah, 90th.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Because, like, for like a millennial like myself, I always think of Donald Duck from, like, I don't know, the 60s, like the early 60s or whatnot. But oh my gosh.
Okay, next comment is Harry Flew TV, who says, finally a new Totally Schway episode, and it's the one Mary teased a few episodes ago. I honestly ship Harley Quinn with Veronica Vreeland. This might be a hot take, but I never understood the Harley appeal. I do get it in Elseworld stories like the Harley Quinn TV show, but considering that Ivy is a criminal at the end of the day, as well as being a seductive plant lady, I feel like she'd be just as, if not more manipulative, but maybe not as abusive, as the Joker. Even in the animated show, I feel like Ivy only took Harley in because she felt sorry for her. I think Ivy at least respects Harley, but doesn't like her. They did seem to get along in Holiday Night's episode, but that wasn't technically Poison Ivy, but a clone of her that Ivy made, while the real Poison Ivy left to live a new life. Meanwhile, Veronica and Harley had good chemistry during Harley's holiday, and even dropped the kidnapping charges. She'd be very good for encouraging Harley's self-esteem and mingling back into society as a respectable individual. Plus, she's not a psychotic abusive clown or a manipulative eco-terrorist who hates all men. Some people might not agree, but anything is better than Batman x Batgirl. Well,
I'm looking at the Lambda stuff, and thank you very much, by the way. So Lambda Legal.
That was for Ryan who recommended that, wasn't it? Yeah.
I'm very into, as I said last time, trying causes to help, or trying to find causes that I can actually help with, and stuff like that. So I'm very thankful for that.
Cool.
And Batman, Batgirl, I will always be a stan. I know a lot of people didn't like the beginning of the Killing Joke, but I actually didn't mind that.
It served a purpose.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, I talked about this in a video I made ages ago, but it served the purpose of showing where Batman had a consensual relationship with Batgirl. The Joker stole one, let's put it that way.
I think because I haven't read the Killing Joke comic.
Yeah, that's not in the Killing Joke comic.
Yeah, I think because I've not read any of the comics around that time, I don't know if I would change my mind if I would have read them or not, but I can see I can see both sides of not liking it and liking it, and then also seeing the boss and the employee aspect. But sometimes you have to think they're both heroes, and they can, both of age, consenting adults, and yeah, but I can see both sides.
Cool. Okay, so next we're on to Big Mikey P, Michael Andre Parlon's comment, who says, "Don't hear any choppers or sniffling. No need to apologise, Mary." Anyway, just watching this whilst nearing the end of rereading Tess of the D'Urbervilles in the middle of Peter David's Batman Forever. Now, there is an interesting combination to be reading at the same time. Already finished the likes of Little Women trilogy, The Little Prince Peter Pan, The Little Princess Heidi, The Kingdom Come novelisation by Elliot S. Maggin, and The Thing and Alien novelisations by Alan Dean Foster. Oh, and rewatched John Carpenter's The Thing, Qui-Dan, and Batman Returns.
I love Peter Pan. It's probably I know Disney doesn't own Peter Pan, but my favorite Disney movie to actually sit down and watch all the way through is Peter Pan, and the Peter Pan book is such a lovely, I don't know, it's one of those things where it's lovely, but I can see how everyone has a different meaning for it. And for me, it's about escape, and I love it. So it's nice to see that you were reading that.
To continue the comment, I'd rather prefer already assured ships like Lumity. Of course, there are times when certain ships could have worked out where not for someone else not being part of the equation. A personal example would be Kyo Fujibayashi in Tomoya or Okazaki in Clannad. Were it not for Kindred Nagisa Furukawa being the winning girl in the anime adaptation. Voice actors can do a lot of wonders to character chemistry. A case in point would be the Christy Carlson Romanos, Kim Possible, and Will Friedle's Ron Stoppable. It is inevitable that Jon Stewart and Shiera Hall will be together again. It's just the matter of what happened to Vixen that begs questions, though in my opinion her getting killed off, a la the apocryphal Batman Beyond 2.0 comics, makes so much sense, with perhaps some elements of Justice League Babel/Doom.
I like to think that Vixen broke up with John because she saw, like, yo, this isn't like you're on the Justice League, I'm on the Justice League, but hey, I want to go be president. So she went to go be president. And then she was like, you know what? I'm going to be president again. So she got her second term. And then after that, she was like, you know what? I'm going to go back to being a model. I don't ever have to work again. And, Naomi Campbell in the 90s says she wouldn't get up for less than 10,000. Make it 100,000 for Vixen.
Right, continuing the comment. That's the queer thing about Huntress and the question. There's so much wrong about them, and yet they seem so right for each other. Meanwhile, the moment where they infiltrated a Cadmus building so to acquire computer files in spite of the guards, what a chef-kiss moment of awesome, wholesome, and funny. Yeah. Actually, I don't understand the Superman X Volcana ship. However, I do sympathise with the missed opportunity to make her the Justice League Unlimited's Firestorm equivalent in the DCAU. Yeah, that would have been cool, considering she was from Project Firestorm, wasn't she? But anyway, 2955. I can picture this as if it were me. Disney Star Wars will never be referenced, although certain good stuff like the Resurgent class battlecruiser and the Thrawn 2017 novels should be retconned to the Legends continuity. Expect lots and lots of side character spotlight anthologies from almost every work of fiction I know and love, with the intent to properly end their story arcs. Fire away whatever happened to, I can't even read this word, Melchizedek and his family from A Little Princess, and off-screen world building of the DCAU in the Batman Beyond era and the era between Superman the Animated Series and the new Batman Adventures and Justice League and so on. Doing sequels to certain what-ifs, take the alternate ending to the Revenge of the Sith video game adaptation where Anakin Skywalker becomes the new Emperor of the Galaxy, or the true outcome of the golden ending of Titanic Adventure Out of Time. 3502, especially Spider-Man's. At least Batman's love troubles somehow seem less troubling. Hot take, I appreciate Harley not being mentioned in the mainline part of the video. Not sure why, but I'm of the opinion that they're getting a bit too much attention lately, particularly the DCAU iterations, who don't go anywhere. 3544, timestamping. Warning, my mind wasn't in the brightest spot when I wrote this. Lapses occur at times nowadays. Well, yeah, it happens to us all.
It's called getting older, unfortunately.
3736, a true sequel, not an unconnected spiritual successor. Meantime, A Better World also needed a true sequel showing what happened to the imprisoned, depowered Justice Lords, plus the redeeming Batman of that world. 3915, why waste time on benevolent super-speed IKEA when I could use the time to completely I-beam annihilate, say, a rogue ultra-conservative Floridian city instead, while ordering Green Lantern Jon Stewart to fire a tungsten rod satellite on, what's the capital of Belarus called again? Sorry, Mary, but pass on such lazy trifles. Meanwhile, I never said anything wrong about pancakes, hotcakes. Not sure where you guys got such falsities. I mean, it was probably just me completely misremembering.
Luke loves, like, can I say this about what you were saying? Because Luke has to go into the office, because he usually works from home, but he has to go into the office on Tuesday. And on Tuesday, it's pancake day here. And it wasn't like a big deal, but I think it was last night. He was just talking to me about something, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, I'm in the office on pancake day.
Yeah. Absolute bull. They always do this. They always choose the most inconvenient times. Like the next time I've got to go into the office for an extended period of time, it's my wedding anniversary, so we're going to have to figure something out there. Yeah. It's almost like they do it despite me. Yeah. I know they don't. I'm joking.
But no, it's... does anybody call them flapjacks? Because my grandma called pancakes flapjacks. She was like, would you want some flapjacks and bacon? I'm like, I don't like American bacon. as much as I like UK bacon,
Mm-hmm.
or turkey bacon, that is, because
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But I don't know why I said that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Some people call them flapjacks, but yeah, there are all sorts of different types of
Flapjacks are
pancakes.
oaty things.
Yeah, that's what I think of as well. But anyway, we're getting distracted. There's still like 10,000 words of this comment left, so I've got to get going.
Okay.
I still wonder how that cancelled Superman 64 port to the PS1 would have fared. Probably not very well. Bet it could have been a much improved game, really. Well, don't be too sure. To remedy thy regret, Mary, I advise thee to watch Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurais. Its 1960s Western remake, The Magnificent Seven. Avoid the more recent remake of said remake that has Chris Pratt, blatantly unnecessary. And Disney Pixar's A Bug's Life. Mary has seen A Bug's Life, I'm certain of it.
I love a Bug's Life. I used to like I think I mentioned this. I used to like Ants, but unfortunately, I can't. I don't watch that anymore when I'm sick. But I do like A Bug's Life, and I often forget about it. But I do like A Bug's Life a lot.
Can admit Superman and Superman 2, even the Richard Donner cut, just aren't as definitive feeling as, say, Tim Burton's Batman films and Superman the Animated Series. Heck, who would argue that Elliot S. Maggins' Last Son of Krypton and Miracle Monday novels are better Superman tales in spite of some derivatives? Clark Kent doesn't work for the Daily Planet, for one. I wouldn't dare say the Christopher Reeve films are dated, apart from Superman 3 and 4, which is like half of them. Those are technically unwatchable and worth skipping. But I'll risk saying that they lost some of their hype in recent less campy times. Also, no plans to watch The Brave and the Bold myself. Soberly called it with the fact that it's not as great as The Winter Soldier. Oh, Brave New World, not Brave and the Bold, excuse me. Just projecting there because I've been watching Brave and the Bold recently. Soberly called it with the fact that it's not as great as The Winter Soldier and The First Avenger. Perhaps Mary might want to talk about the Fleischer Superman, Lois Lane. She's a bit underrated in my eyes.
I see. I am going to be watching the Fleischer shorts, but I want to finish. I'll probably watch them kind of within like 2 days. So that is kind of a good idea because I want to watch them all at once, so I can.
Yeah, it'll only take like an hour and a half to
Yeah,
watch them all.
exactly.
If I had to say about Valentine's Day, girls and women are also allowed to give Valentines to other girls and women, and same for boys and men,
Yeah.
even if jestingly, because both parties are single and they don't have any crushes. Hee hee. Flowers and chocolates may be too cliche, so feel free to be quite original with stuff like books, video games, music albums, and cultural dishes. And white chocolate shouldn't be deemed as a poor substitute. Another hot take, I actually prefer the animated Disney Peter Pan film more than the surprisingly alien J.M. Barrie book. Plus, the sequel film featuring Wendy's daughter Jane isn't too bad. The Batman 66 moment with the Joker pounding on phones. What season was that from, Luke? I think it was from season 3. To help themselves out, Warner Brothers may want to release the Schumacher cut for Batman Forever. Would be nice to also see it be the Peter David novelization in almost every way, not unlike how Alien Special Edition and Alien 3 Assembly Cut did things with Alan Dean Foster's novelization in mind. Wait, what was the Serum Lake video that got temporarily copyrighted by Warner Brothers? It was the Baby Doll. Yeah, it was Baby Doll. Thankfully, it was peacefully resolved without me having to be snarky.
Like I said, in a different video, I think it was actually done in a very professional way. It was really good. I'm very surprised by that.
1 hour, 18 minutes and 26 seconds. Damn, our podcasts are getting long.
I know.
He says, looking at this recording that's over an hour and 10 minutes already.
I'm going to get it better at that, sorry.
To think that that bad sequel was made by the same people who did Wonder Woman 2017. Bravo to the DCEU to ruin the first movie with 1984's very existence and dissipating the hype that'll be another bigger and better sequel not unlike The Dark Knight. Just an aside, Julia is wrong. Absolute Wonder Woman and her ongoing arc so far is kind of wholesome, even when compared to Absolute Batman and Superman. Now, those guys' current arcs justify some of Julia's nitpicks on Grimdark as of this writing. That Lois Lane tank top designer, that Lois Lane tank top danger level thing will also not be funny and so relatable. Never not be funny, yeah. I'm falling apart here. Also prepare to repent in case Lois is nude, apart from sheltering herself with Superman's torn away tattered cape. Bold to see Mass Effect and Babylon 5 get nods here. Anyway, shadows equals free space, Shivans greater than Reapers. Wait, there's no mention of other DCAU vessels in this video, like the Atlantean super submarines. Clickbait! Jack Kirby, folks like Chris Claremont, Bob Kane, Frank Miller, and Brian Bendis have tried so hard to be as successful and influential as him. They have arguably failed, and for good reasons. Cringingly hypocritical of TikTok to try and pander and sympathizing with the LGBTQ plus community, considering the blatant backwardness of communist China, who uses it as obvious spyware destined to bite the native ones hard when the necessary Third World War finally starts.
Do you want to know something, Big Mikey P? I'm going to say this. They can have all of the information they want on me. Like, if they want all of the information on my phone about, like, what I search and everything, I'm going to be honest with you. It's about waterproof jewelry, Stanley cups, and funny cat videos.
Yeah.
That's literally what I do, because I use TikTok to try to, like, spark a little joy. It has become something different to me lately because it's kind of quite political, but I can see what you're saying, but they can have my things as long as I can see that, oh, there's a lady on there that has, like, literally, I'm not even exaggerating, hundreds of Stanley cups. I mean, I've got, like, less than 10, okay? I can see Luke trying to count. I think it's 7, okay? I think.
I think it might be 9.
Oh, yeah, because
Anyway.
I don't count the ones. If I lose her, it's gonna be rough, and I'm not gonna be okay for a little bit. So
I need to finish this comment now. So we're on the last bit anyway. And to say my advice, Mary, pray for the ugly-haired Caligula to get Lee Harvey Oswald. Ouch. Boy, do I await seeing that on live uncensored television and YouTube feeds. Oh, and hope someone does a Tom Clancy's debt of honor to his damned administration. Well,
I'm not going to comment because I am an American living in another country and I don't want them to, like, revoke anything. So no comment.
yeah, thanks for your violent insights, Big Mikey P.
We love you, Big Mikey P.
Yeah, so next comment is from Maram Deal 1244. New commenter. Thank you very much for joining us. He says, you can absolutely ship canon couples. If it makes you want to make more, if it makes you passionate, it's a ship. That told me.
I like you.
Next, we have David Carney, who says, hi, Luke and Mary. Hope you both had a good Valentine's Day. Glad to hear you're feeling better, Mary.
Person that I think about all of the time.
Just came from Gaming Group after starting the new season today to listen to a great show. Would love to have seen more Batman and Wonder Woman. Also, The Question and Huntress, as well as Harley and Ivy. Wonderful relationships. Have a great week, both. Yeah, you too. Thank you very much.
It's going to be a great week. But mentally willing, it will be a great week.
Next, we have Pika Shades, who says, started listening to this while at the gym. My personal best is 105 kilograms, which is 231.48 pounds when doing bench presses.
I can pick up my cat.
And thought I'd share my recent discovery on how Batman Harley was passively made to work in Sean Gordon Murphy's White Knight series. Have Harley actually go back to being Harleen and undo all the damage that the Joker did to her. I was never into that or any other ship, but seeing how it was done there, I don't see any reasons to object against it in that story. Yeah, I mean, I enjoy the White Knight stories as well. They're decent enough. They take inspiration from BTAS and the Burton movies, and they kind of distill everything down into its own separate, distinct thing.
I like when comics can do that, and that's one of the things that I like about the comic book industry is you can have several stories about the character, and they can be very different from each other, but it's still the same character, and whichever one that you like is the one that you like.
Mm-hmm. Right, next comment is SR Striker, who says, well...
One that I think about all the time.
I did like Wonderbat, but not anymore, as you can tell in all the animated Catwoman through the years videos. And remember what I said about Y Epilogue? I never liked the idea of Bruce Wayne having any of his children out of wedlock, as it ruins the point on what his parents would think of him. I don't think that it does, but okay. In that Granny Goodness video, I thought of he was going to have a child with a villain that isn't Selena by the way of the Golden Glider. As why I picked her is because on Tumblr it says that she's the anti-Batman. Is she really? I would have said that was Prometheus or Wrath, but anyway. And I think using as a member of the Injustice League but I would save that when you get to do Injustice for All episode. About a Brave New Metropolis episode, I had been thinking about where Batman and other heroes were in the universe, and I thought of it being like Old Man Logan comics, where the villains and the Gotham is ruined by the Penguin, whose dictator persona is the Emperor Penguin. Remember I said about those other alternate versions of the Justice League as monsters? I feel that would be stronger than the League, that they would definitely fear them, push them to their limits like they wanted to, give the Martian Manhunter a better life, but not Superman, because of who he is, and the Batman equivalent being the Bat King, does not approve of Batman's relationship with Wonder Woman or any other woman except for Selina, and also didn't approve of Hawk Girl and Jon Stewart relationship too. So I don't know if you've seen the Family Guy episode where the British took away their bar, and Peter Griffin said about action movies being more sissy stuff like I Remember Cecil. So they got me thinking about the time that Batman knew Hawkgirl before the Justice League first episode, and you wonder about an episode where we could have seen how Batman met Hawkgirl, and that they tried to mess with them, that Batman and Hawkgirl were in a relationship like friends with benefits type, and that replaced John's ring with an artificial one that is powered by envy because, after all, green is envy. It would be like the Black Spider-Man costume. Yep, some scenarios there that, yeah, I mean, they're not going to happen because the DCAU is no longer a thing.
We're actually on the we've mentioned this, that we rewatched like Superman and stuff like that, and now we're on Justice League, and we're on the last part of the third season.
Second
We're
on Starcrossed.
Yeah, I could never remember how many seasons of which they did, but yeah, so I hate these episodes, but I love them at the same time because it just shows, like, I know these are aliens and stuff like that, but it shows how human how human these stories can get.
Next, we're on to play content.
Yeah, another person.
What a totally Schway podcast. Question and Huntress going on holiday together is a show I'd watch. In an ideal world, it's a show I'd write for. Sometimes they'd end up solving crimes, sometimes they just don't. Tune in next time to find out which happens.
Yeah.
There could be a Batman 66 style narrator saying that at the end. Sometimes it'd be a vacation to places we've already seen in DC animation. Sometimes it'd be really unexpected places like Llandudno. Or at least a fictional place it's based on, like Gotham's based on New York. Yes, the DCAU Llandudno, yes.
Llandudno. How do you get honest?
Llandudno. I don't know if the microphone will pick up that part. But
Llandudno. I can't do it.
Involves saliva, yeah. I'm not mocking Welsh pronunciation. My grandmother's, her family were Welsh, and my uncle actually had a hotel in Llandudno on the seafront.
I think he still does, isn't he?
No, he sold it years ago. Right, I've lost my place. I'm never sure about DC properties using real cities and towns. When they mentioned California, I think in The Penguin, it was really noticeable to me because even in grounded DC stories, I'd say, with much less knowledge than either of you, doubtful, but okay, I'll take it. It seems moderately rare that they feature real places. Themyscira is an exception, obviously. Okay, so next comment is from Laurel Silberman, who says, I ship Bruce Wayne and John Doe from the Telltale games. That whole game is a thinly veiled Batman dating simulator. Yeah, I mean, suppose if that's the way you want to play it. I paid very little attention to the romantic relationships when I played that. But yeah, anyway. All right, new commenter here, or at least I don't recognise the username, and I think I would. The username is Tweaking on the Radiation.
Oh, cool. Okay. Love it.
I don't know why, but a ship I find myself commonly hoping to happen at some point in the animated show is Red Hood and Jason Todd and Harley Quinn.
Oh.
I feel that a good story could be made for the show with the characters finding each other in Arkham after Bruce put Jason in there for killing more criminals. And then he meets Harley and they talk. Harley wants Joker dead after the last thing he pulled on her. So Jason obviously would join her to help kill Joker.
Honestly? I love that idea.
Right, next we have a couple of comments from Screenwiper, and they will culminate in the chicken update. But first he says, 2922, I went to the farm shop to buy vegetables to eat. In honour of St. David's Day, I'm having pizza with leek mushrooms and chilies for dinner. Got talking to the man in there about who the other staff are. There's an older woman and a younger woman. They look alike, and I thought they were mother and daughter. Nope, they were that guy's mother and girlfriend. I don't know how I so successfully manoeuvred the conversation away from the obvious conclusion, but lol, bro, your girlfriend looks like your mum. How is that not weird? But I did. Well, apparently,
You're
go
gonna
on,
say
you
what
say it.
Carly said, right? Or
No, I wasn't going to say anything that your
okay.
brother said. No, no. Apparently, they say that when we look for romantic partners and even friends, we look for people that are similar to us. And I
Yeah.
don't think that's always true, but
My brother has. I think he read it when he was younger. But there's this theory of, you date or go in a partnership with someone like your mother or father.
Freudian thing.
I don't believe that, but I see it so much. It's a whole new thing about mommy or daddy issues.
2731 Volcana shouldn't be in a relationship with Superman. She should be in a relationship with me, or at least a friends with benefits thing. Oh dear.
She'd probably do it.
Yeah, she probably would.
Probably.
Probably would. Okay, so finally it's the chicken news from Screen Wiper. It says, we still have some freezing mornings and evenings and the worst rainstorms seen since before Christmas, but the weather is mostly warming up and drying out and the hens are really enjoying it. The biggest difference is in Wilma. She still has issues getting down the garden stairs, but maybe not quite as much. She's certainly getting a lot more chatty and talkative, back into character. She's almost as noisy as Doris. The blue style ring of white feathers growing on the back of her neck has grown out nicely and looks pretty. For late morning to early afternoon, the sun shines directly onto their sand and dirt bathing box, and someone nearly always has a bath at that time. But if that someone isn't Wilma, Wilma sees them enjoying it and starts wanting the bath herself. So Wilma has a bath every day, sometimes by making other hens leave. Though if I catch her doing that, I will tell her no, and she leaves them be for a bit. Everyone has the right to a good bath, Wilma.
Exactly.
Mabel has also been affected by a mix of the sunnier, warmer weather and perhaps my protection helping her confidence and is laying more eggs. Last week, she was layer of the week and gave me 3 eggs in 4 days. Like 5 eggs over the whole week. Normally she gives 2. Doris gives 4 or 5. They're good quality, suggesting the hens have a good diet and good health. Betty has been fine, bit grumpy sometimes, has picked on the younger hens a handful of times for no reason. Mood swings perhaps, could be the hormones, could be the change in temperature. This has happened before and doesn't normally last long because she knows hens who keep being bad go into the brig. On the note of Mary having Betty be her favourite and now Wilma, I cannot pick a favourite, and whenever I feel like I can, it's very temporary. It rotates and changes. Everyone has been my favourite at one time or another because, despite the occasional naughtiness, they are all very good girls.
That's how I feel about my cats.
Mm.
Like, honestly, I feel like I have a favorite today. But tomorrow, I know Thorbor is going to come in when I'm sitting in my chair in my bedroom, and he's going to be like, and then use his little claws to get me off of my phone to pet him, and then he becomes my little best friend. And then Apollo, the next day, is going to look up at me and go, meow, which means turn the tap on. No matter what room he says it in, he's like, meow.
Well, those are all the comments, Mary, so I think all that's left to do now is talk about what we're going to discuss in the next episode.
Okay, I remember this time.
What is it?
It's Lex Luthor.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the DCAU Lex Luthor. This is going to be an accompaniment to our next episode of Totally Schway.
Is this just our
Flipside.
love letter to Clancy?
Yes, maybe we should just call it a love letter to Clancy Brown.
I know, we should.
But if you're at all interested in talking about other Lex Luthors, obviously listen to Totally Schway Flipside on Mary's channel, where we will be talking about well, maybe not all, but most Lex Luthors, including the late Gene Hackman.
Yeah, it seems like a fitting time, doesn't it?
Yes, I know. When they said that he had been dead for some time, I was like, oh no, did we cause this by saying we're going to talk about Lex Luthor a week or so ago? Here's
the thing. I'm just going to say this before we leave. Mm-hmm. There was a post online that I saw when I was looking up news about I couldn't remember a film, the name of a film that he was in, the one that he won his first Oscar for. I know it's stupid, but I couldn't remember it. And on one of, I guess they put it on Instagram. It was like, He was so young.
Gene Hackman had this. I mean, I'm spoiling the
Yeah.
podcast, but he had the amazing ability of always looking like he was 60.
Yeah.
Always.
And that's the thing. He was 95.
Yes.
And that's the thing. I was like, I forgot how old he was until I saw that. I was like, but the dude was 95, man.
Yeah.
But still very sad. By the way, that movie was Unforgiven.
Oh, okay.
I thought he did win the Oscar for that, didn't he?
I think he did, yeah. I thought he'd won one before for...
Yeah.
Not sure now, actually.
That was the one that I thought he had just won one for, but I think there is one before that. But that's the one that I could not remember.
Anyway.
I love you guys. I'm going to go get some crumpets. I'm not even joking. I'm actually going to get some crumpets from Marks and Spencer's, the multi-grain ones. In case anybody else is a diabetic out there who wants to have toasty crumpets in the morning.
Yeah, anyone living in the UK that is diabetic and wants to have crumpets, go and get the multi-grain ones from M&S, apparently.
Yeah. All right. I love you guys with Kerrygold butter. With a tiny bit.
You love guys with Kerrygold butter.
I love you guys with Kerrygold butter.